Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the garden, our quiet corner for considering that crazy world out there. Tonight we're going to be thinking about Kyle Kulinsky's Hypocrisy, which he had on display in amazing fashion in this video we're going to be looking at today. But first, like this video if you enjoy this kind of content, and subscribe to let the algorithm know that. Thank you so much for your support. Let's see what Kyle and Krystal are talking about, shall we? First off, we get to see Kyle say some dumb shit that he's going to then go ahead and completely contradict at least once.
This clip was very, very interesting to me because it made me think. And I like stuff that I don't necessarily agree with, but it makes me think. That's that's the stuff that I'm always searching out. I don't need anybody to
towards that.
Yeah, I don't want anybody to, confirm my priors. I know what they are, and I know what I think, and I can give you 1,000 different arguments for the things I think. Tell me, disagree with me, but in a way that's really thoughtful. I'm like, ooh.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm just sure you are. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Let's see how that plays out. Now, Krystal and Sagar are discussing a little clip of Jon Stewart telling a CNN anchor that maybe they need to move on from talking about Donald Trump all the time. How exactly we get to where he goes, it's quite a little adventure. Let's see.
That it's only really cancel culture to me, and it's only really a problem to me when it becomes authoritarian, which is, I want you fired, so I'm going to try to make you lose your job, or I want you deplatformed, or I want you censored, or I want to make sure, you don't get a speech at whatever place, whatever college.
Okay, so I guess if we want to know if something is authoritarianism, we have to go call up Kyle Kulinsky and ask him personally to find out if it is or not. No. Free speech is, either everything is okay or none of it is. I swear I've heard him say that at some point. But, it's only, cancel culture is only bad if it's authoritarian. Cancel culture is authoritarian by its very nature. Telling somebody that they can't say a thing in public is an authoritarian thing to do.
College campus you were going to give a speech. That's when I draw a line and I go, no. Because even if everything you're saying is true, even if the person is racist, bigoted, and all these terrible things, you still shouldn't say, we're going to not allow you to speak at all.
Right. But I think Kyle's a little confused because here we're about to contradict exactly what he just said.
Which is, the moral panic around YouTube and when there was Adpocalypse and, oh my God, a Nestle ad ran on a white nationalist channel, therefore defund all of news and politics. And oh my God, we don't know what this crazy guy Kyle is saying. Nobody controls him. He doesn't work for any official organization. So why don't we de-rank him in the algorithm and make it so that he can't reach as many new people in the audience? And so that also is cancel culture.
Yeah. You sound a little bitter, though, for somebody who is doing pretty well, I think. This is a slippery slope argument, though, isn't it? Isn't that contradicting the whole, it's only bad if it's authoritarian? Where exactly does it become authoritarian? When it affects you personally?
That there are all kinds of brilliant people out there who may have had a path previously to be able to get their views and their analysis and their reporting heard, and that path is effectively closed off now.
Yep,
right.
Here.
Agreed. And so I agree with him that democratizing
Jon Stewart
voices has been good. Democratizing criticism has been good. I think the only part he really misses is that not all criticisms are inherently reasonable, and cancel culture really becomes a problem when it is authoritarian and when you start censoring, deplatforming, firing people, and having real-world consequences for things that, might be wrong to say or even right to say, but are just controversial. So yeah, I think it's a fascinating comment from Jon Stewart. I see a little bit more nuance in it.
Nuance is the word you use to describe completely contradicting yourself.
Yeah. The last thing that I'll say on this is I think there's an assumption from him and a lot of other people that the people who whine about cancel culture, like, they are sort of an elite group. And so they're pushing back against any sort of change. But what? Like,
maybe. But I think it's also that the ones who manage to get heard about their experiences are the ones who are, well connected and have the wherewithal to come back from that. The little people it happens to, you just never hear from them again.
What we've seen and what we've experienced is that actually the reality of cancel culture has made it much harder for the little guy and girl to come up independently, to have their views and voices heard. So it is
the little rad fam
democratizing
bloody
force,
impossible.
all of this censorship and rigging of the algorithm and deplatforming and all of that is anti-democratic, whereas he thinks that it's actually pro-democratic.
Because I guess Jon Stewart still believes in a meritocracy somehow, which, what Kyle was essentially speaking against a little while ago.
Great point. And I'll also add to that, it also kind of sucks all the air out of the room and wastes a lot of energy that could be guided into a constructive way to address the issues that these people claim to care about.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially on the left. Like, it's anti-solidarity, basically.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so just to give one example, the uproar over Dave Chappelle with his special.
Here we go. And this is the part where Kyle takes us on a little left turn where I was watching this. I thought I was watching a video about Jon Stewart. All of a sudden, he goes there, and I'm just like, ooh, here we go.
The transgender community being angry, or some in the transgender community being angry over it, and some wanting to get the special pulled. What if all that energy, instead of going towards nobody should be allowed to watch this special, what if all that energy went towards a direct effort to get anti-discrimination protections on the book for transgender people in all 50 states?
We have that. Funny enough, they did that way back at the beginning of this year when the Biden administration first took office through an executive order. Let's go look at it, huh? Here we are. Executive Order 14021, dated March 8th, 2021. Guaranteeing an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual orientation and or gender identity. Section 1. It is the policy of my administration that all students should be guaranteed an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Federal. They just went in and tweaked Title IX protections. So that it's not about what your sex is. It can totally be including what you think your sex is supposed to be.
So what if all that energy was directed at the Biden administration to say, right now, trans people are not a protected class?
Yes, they are.
I think gay people are, different races are.
Yeah.
With gender, it is. But trans people specifically.
I think he means sex here.
There's in over 20 states, there's no protections whatsoever. So in other words, it is theoretically legal for a business owner to say,
directly discriminate.
I don't want to hire you because you're trans, and I think that's weird.
No, it's not. We just looked at it. I'm not sure what state level stuff he's talking about here. I really try to stay up on this stuff, and all I've heard about are, bathrooms and, school board rulings and that kind of thing. He doesn't actually cite any sources, so I guess we'll never know.
And I'm not comfortable with it, so I'm not going to hire you because you're trans. In theory, they can say that, perfectly legal.
Nope, it's not.
That's the problem. The problem is,
that's the problem.
Trans people have a rough go of it. Society has not fully accepted trans people yet by any stretch of the imagination. They get questioned more than anybody else. I think generally homosexuality has been a lot more accepted at this point. Trans people, that's not the case. And you might suffer with job prospects as a result of it if people just think it's weird, if people don't understand it fully. And so getting anti-discrimination protections on the books is super important.
It's literally already been done, dude, on day one. And it's so ironic that you guys are sitting there talking about the problem of the focus in the media because, here we are having to have this conversation with people like you who clearly do not have any idea what the hell you're talking about.
And I don't see, now I'm not as familiar with the issue as many others are.
No
so I don't want to
kidding.
speak too broadly here, but all I'll say is certainly the thing the media is focusing on is trans activism insofar as it wants to pull down a comedy special, and not trans activism insofar as it wants to really change the structure of society, get better laws on the books.
They already did that, though. And what activism have they done exactly besides, parades and having a bunch of, special days and characters on television shows? I really don't remember a whole lot of activism politically. So, it's kind of amazing what they've gotten done, really, with all the nothing that they put into it.
Yeah, well, and I suspect that is partly a media problem.
Yeah, a media problem. Right. The media is focusing on all this nutty stuff because, well, that's what's happening. This group that y'all are advocating for and really don't seem to know anything about are kind of around the twist.
As well, but to
Yes,
Jon
agreed.
Stewart's point, I shared with you
Yeah,
a
let's
post that I thought
rein it
was
in a little,
really
shall we?
instructive. That was like, listen, and it was written by a trans person. It was like, listen, I'm not mad at you and trying to get you canceled for telling trans jokes. I'm mad and annoyed that you keep telling the same trans joke that's not funny anymore.
Here we are with the comedy not being funny because we're all a bunch of comedians, right? None of us ever just get preachy about our opinions.
Creative anymore, over and over and over again, and went through like all of them and how repetitive they are, and like how in every special it's the same joke. That kind of goes to Jon Stewart's point of like, update your stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean
No. And if you watch this whole video, Jon Stewart didn't say that. That's Kyle Kulinsky's little summary of what Jon Stewart said to the CNN anchor about maybe moving on from obsessing over Trump.
you're like, Dave Chappelle's fine, he's rich, his thing, they're standing by him too, by the way. His thing is not getting old,
which is
but
good.
like, at least be funny.
Yeah.
Right, but so that's what I'm saying. The people who you hear speaking up about their cancel culture experiences are the elite ones because the rest of them get ground into the dirt.
Listen,
It was
in my
very
opinion,
preachy.
what I was going to say is that Dave Chappelle really, I love Chappelle Show. I'm a huge fan of his stand-up. I do think he's arguably the GOAT when it comes to comedy. But yeah, I watched the most recent special, and it was a little too preachy. Like, it leaned...
Okay, so you're sitting here and telling me that Dave's story about what happened to his unfortunate friend Daphne wasn't funny? No shit.
More on the preachiness than... Usually the rule for comedians is be funny first, and then whatever else follows. He seemed to put the preachiness first.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was sort of like...
You're watching it. Felt like the criticism got in his head.
Right, and that would be my advice to Dave Chappelle, too, is stop reading the
The criticism got in his head? After his last special, Daphne stuck up for him. We've all heard the story at this point. The criticism got in his head. Right. I don't know. I have a feeling maybe the unfortunate fate of his friend got in his head. You dicks.
Criticism, man.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this? You don't know that by now? I stopped reading the criticism a long time ago, and shit, my blood pressure probably went down. I feel a hell of a lot better. Like, there's only so much a human being can take in terms of criticism where people are telling you stuff about you that you know isn't true.
Yeah, and that's why cancel culture is really awful for people. But, on the other hand, maybe you could consider a couple of the things that people are saying negative about some of the stuff that you do, and then you wouldn't maybe do dumb shit like this.
You're going to start to lose your mind. So anyway, that's what I would say to him. And that's a problem for comedians more generally, too, is that I think that's a lot of them might lose their step when they become more preachy than they are, funny.
When?
I think there's some exceptions to that rule, like maybe George Carlin and maybe Bill Hicks were examples of, like, they're like 40% political commentator, 60% comedian.
And you're suddenly 100% expert on this subject because I know George Carlin is deceased. I'm pretty sure Bill Burr is too. So dead men are allowed to do it? What?
You know what I mean? And they're in a unique space.
Yeah, they're dead.
But, most comedians who are pure comedians, if they get too preachy, it's just...
Yeah, I mean...
Okay, what do you mean by pure comedian? Like, I admit, if the Three Stooges had gotten preachy in one of their movies, that would have seemed really, really out of left field, out of place. But, like, Dave Chappelle has always done edgy, satirical stuff. I thought you said you watched his show.
You were in The Daily Show. Walked that line very well. But
I think he clearly put comedy first, though. I don't think he was nearly as preachy as even Carlin or Hicks.
Yeah.
I think
All right. He was on Comedy Central, first of all. So, he had a lot shorter leash on him, I think, than Carlin doing a special on HBO or whatever. But did you watch The Daily Show? Do you remember the show? Because Jon Stewart used to do that fairly often, actually, where he would kind of put his hands together and lean forward over the desk and look at the camera like that, and you knew that he was about to say something really interesting, without any punchlines in it. And that was what I really always loved about that show, was that I didn't always agree with him, but he always made me think. That's why I went to this. That's why I watched it over other things for years. And that's why I kind of love that man to this day, because he's always come across as a really earnest guy, and he's one of the few people in this world who probably hasn't really disappointed me in that regard since I was like 16. So I have no idea what y'all are talking about. You're pretty off base here.
Be very clear, because ideologically sometimes he'd hit you out of left field with something that you didn't think would be in his wheelhouse, because again, I think he prioritized the funny over the
How did that illustrate that? Did you think that those little earnest chats of his were satire? That was Colbert you're thinking of.
By the way, guys, if you want to see Jon Stewart doing some great work, he tears apart Dennis McDonough, the current Secretary of the VA, in his new show, The Problem with Jon Stewart, in a way that you don't see a single journalist in this town hold people in power to actual account.
Which is so
and this
sad.
was over compensation for people
What's sad,
who
Kyle?
have suffered horrific injuries and health issues because of exposure to toxic burn pits. So definitely check that out.
He's not talking
years
about
later,
that.
We're still relying on Jon Stewart to be like one of the best journalists in the country, even though
That's what he means. What's so
he's not
sad.
a journalist.
He's not a journalist, but he's the best one. That's what's so sad. Not the people in the burn pits. Like, wow. Every time I go back through this is like the fourth or fifth time I find something else where Kyle Kulinsky is just like a raving maniac. What the fuck? Okay. So that's been our little visit with Kyle and Krystal. I don't know how she stands sitting next to that guy sometimes. Oh, he says, he starts out the video by saying, just disagree with me thoughtfully. And I love that. And then, goes on to say that cancel culture is only bad when it's authoritarian. But beware the slippery slope. This guy, in 20 minutes, does all this. And then has the audacity on top of that to criticize Dave Chappelle's comedy. Oh, he's the GOAT, but he's not funny anymore. What are you doing? What are you doing? I just really, what planet do these people live on? And they obviously, I love how everybody is wading in to the trans rights issue all of a sudden, and they have no idea what they're talking about, and he just kind of distracts himself. And the entire last third of the video is just, but let's keep bringing it back to Jon Stewart somehow. Let's just keep on bringing it back. Just throw Dave Chappelle in there for 5 whole minutes. It's just off the cuff. I don't know. Kyle seems really mad, doesn't he? Why do these people care so much about what Dave Chappelle said? I guess he kind of asked that question because, we should be doing real activism to put laws on the books. Let's just see that one more time, shall we? Because in case anyone forgot, it's no longer legal in the United States to kick somebody out of the locker room because they're in the wrong one. If they have a gender identity, that means they need to be in there. Executive Order 14021, 8th March, 2021. Guaranteeing an educational environment free from discrimination on the basis of sex, including sexual orientation or gender identity. Because those 3 things are all interchangeable, what the fuck are we doing? And what the fuck are these people doing? They had no idea what they're talking about, and they didn't do the slightest bit of research. They haven't been paying a damn bit of attention. Why in the fuck are they getting paid to talk about this stuff? I hope no one is listening to them. It is terrifying feeling that people are. Geez, a year ago I was. And then it's like, they kind of came to my corner of the playground over here and are trying to work, the stuff that I've been using forever. And it's just like, that's not how that works. But they would never deign to speak to any of us about it. Just, people like that. Oh gosh, that person giving that speech at that rally. Oh my goodness. The organizer of the rally, who's, not a very nice person, come to find out. Weird. This group of people who y'all are towing the, hauling this around for, pulling this weight for, are living a fantasy and trying to convince us all to live in it with them. Well, strangely enough, I've been there and done that, and it doesn't work out. But this is where things stand right now. The federal government has already decided this, and the talking heads everywhere, I've not found hardly anybody who actually knows what the hell is going on with this. So, we're still in for quite a ride, folks. But I'm here with you, and I'm going to go find some more stuff to bitch about. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.